The marble floor of First National Bank gleamed under crystal chandeliers as Marcus Wellington III checked his Rolex for the third time. Tuesday mornings were for golf, not banking errands, but his accountant had insisted he sign some documents in person. The elderly woman ahead of him was taking forever, her wrinkled hands trembling as she pushed a worn envelope across the counter. "I just want to withdraw my money," she said softly. Marcus rolled his eyes. Behind him, the line had grown to 7 people, all shifting impatiently. The woman wore a faded floral dress that had probably been in style 30 years ago, and her white hair was pinned back with what looked like a child's barrette. Everything about her screamed insignificance. "Ma'am, I'll need to see your identification and account information," the young teller said, her professionally pleasant smile already showing cracks. The woman fumbled through a oversized purse, pulling out a cracked leather wallet. Marcus let out an audible sigh. He had a tea time in 45 minutes. This was ridiculous. "Here," the woman said, sliding a faded driver's license across the counter. "I need to withdraw $1,500. The teller's fingers flew across her keyboard. Then her expression changed. She looked up at the woman, then back at her screen, then up again. I need to get my manager," she stammered. Marcus's jaw clenched. Of course. The old woman probably had some issue with her account, and now everyone would have to wait even longer. He pulled out his phone and fired off a text to his golf partners. A portly man in a suit emerged from a back office, his face already creased with the practiced concern of someone used to delivering bad news. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Daniel Harper, the branch manager. Is there a problem?" "No problem," the elderly woman said, her accent now more noticeable as her anxiety grew. "I just want to withdraw my money. $1,500. For my grandson's tuition." Marcus couldn't help himself. A small laugh escaped his lips. $1,500. She'd brought the entire bank to a standstill over $1,500. He spent more than that on a single dinner. The manager leaned in close to the teller, who whispered something Marcus couldn't hear. The manager's eyebrows shot up. He looked at the old woman with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "Mrs. Chen," the manager said carefully, "could you step into my office for a moment?" "I don't want to cause trouble," she said, clutching her purse. "I just need to help my grandson. His semester starts next week, and his scholarship doesn't cover everything. I have the money. It's my money, yes. I can take it." Of course," the manager said, but something in his voice had changed. "Please, just step into my office. It'll only take a moment." The woman looked frightened now. Marcus watched as she followed the manager, her small frame seeming to shrink even further. Good. Maybe now the line would move. But the teller didn't call the next customer. Instead, she picked up her phone, whispering urgently into it while glancing at the office where Mrs. Chen had disappeared. 2 other bank employees emerged from the back, walking quickly toward the manager's office. Marcus's irritation transformed into curiosity. What was going on? Was the old woman some kind of fraud? A con artist? He'd read about elderly people being used as mules for money laundering schemes. "Sir." The teller was looking at him. "Would you like to use the next window?" But Marcus waved her off. Something was happening, and his golf game suddenly seemed less important. Through the glass walls of the manager's office, he could see Mrs. Chen sitting in a chair, looking small and confused, while the manager and 2 other employees hunched over a computer screen. One of them kept shaking his head in disbelief. The manager picked up his phone. Marcus couldn't hear what he was saying, but the conversation was animated. Then the manager hung up, walked around his desk, and did something that made Marcus's breath catch. He pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of Mrs. Chen, then took her weathered hands in his. The office door opened, and the manager emerged, his eyes suspiciously bright. He walked to the main counter and spoke to all the tellers in a voice loud enough for the waiting customers to hear. "I need everyone's attention, please," he said. "I apologize for the delay. We're processing a rather unusual transaction." "How much longer?" someone behind Marcus complained. The manager ignored the question. Instead, he looked directly at Marcus. "Sir, you were standing behind Mrs. Chen, correct? You heard her request." Marcus felt everyone's eyes on him. "Yes. She wanted to withdraw $1,500. The manager nodded. "That's correct. What Mrs. Chen didn't realize, what none of us realized, is that her account balance is substantially higher than she thought. Marcus frowned. What do you mean, Mrs. Chen opened her account with us 43 years ago, when she first immigrated to America. Her husband worked 3 jobs to save money. She worked as a seamstress, taking on any work she could find. They never had children of their own, but they supported 7 nephews and nieces, helping them come to America, paying for their education, their first apartments, their weddings. The bank had gone completely silent. For 43 years, Mrs. Chen deposited money every single week. Small amounts. $20, $50, sometimes just 10. Her husband passed away 15 years ago, but she kept depositing. Every week. Never missed. And she never withdrew. Not once. Not for herself. Marcus felt something uncomfortable stirring in his chest. Mrs. Chen believes she has approximately $3,000 in her account, the manager continued. She thought withdrawing half would still leave her some security. But what she doesn't know, what she's about to learn, is that after 43 years of weekly deposits, with compound interest. The manager paused, his voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Chen has $1.7 million in her account. The silence in the bank was absolute. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. She's a millionaire, the manager said quietly. And she came in today, terrified, to withdraw $1,500 for her grandson's tuition, believing it would take half of everything she had left in the world. Someone in line behind Marcus started crying. The teller who'd first helped Mrs. Chen had tears streaming down her face. Marcus looked at the office where Mrs. Chen sat, still clutching her old purse, still wearing her faded dress, completely unaware that she was wealthier than most people in that bank, including him. The manager walked back into his office. Through the glass, Marcus watched him show Mrs. Chen the computer screen. Her hand flew to her mouth. She shook her head repeatedly, clearly convinced there had been a mistake. The manager printed out a statement and handed it to her. She stared at it, her whole body beginning to shake. Then she started to cry. But her next words, loud enough to hear through the office walls, broke something open in Marcus's chest. How much can I give to my grandson? Not, how much can I spend? Not, how much can I keep? But how much could she give? The manager was openly crying now. Mrs. Chen, you can give him whatever you want. You can pay for his entire education. You can pay for all your grandchildren's educations. You can finally do something for yourself. Mrs. Chen stood up, clutching the statement, and walked out of the office. As she passed Marcus, she stopped. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen hardship he couldn't imagine, that had given more than he'd ever thought to give, that had never stopped believing in the goodness of hard work and sacrifice. I heard you laugh, she said softly. When I said $1,500. You thought I was poor. Marcus wanted to disappear. I'm sorry. I didn't. I am poor, she said simply. In money, I was poor. But in my life, I am very rich. I have family. I have purpose. I worked hard. I never took what wasn't mine. I gave when I could. Money in a bank doesn't make you wealthy. How you live makes you wealthy. She smiled then, and it transformed her entire face. But now, she said, her eyes twinkling, now I can give more. That makes me happy. She patted Marcus's arm with her small, worn hand, and walked out of the bank. Marcus stood frozen. Behind him, someone started clapping. Then another person. Then the entire bank erupted in applause, though Mrs. Chen was already gone, probably heading home on the bus, probably already planning how much she could give to each of her grandchildren. The manager approached Marcus. Your transaction, sir. Marcus looked at his expensive watch, his tailored suit, his Italian leather shoes. He thought about his 3 houses, his car collection, his investment portfolio. He thought about the golf game he was missing, the appointments he considered inconveniences, the people he dismissed as insignificant. Actually, Marcus said slowly, I need to make a deposit. Into Mrs. Chen's account. Anonymously. The manager's eyebrows rose. How much? Marcus pulled out his checkbook. His hand trembled as he wrote. When he finished, he tore out the check and handed it over. The manager looked at it and his eyes widened. Sir, this is for her family, Marcus said. All of them. For education. For whatever they need. She gave everything her whole life. Let someone give back. As Marcus walked out of the bank, missing his golf game, missing his lunch meeting, missing everything he'd thought was important that morning, he realized something. For the first time in years, he felt rich.